Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nana the Canner here. I want to welcome you back to the edge of the boreal forest here in Saskatchewan, Canada. Today I want to talk to you about my canning journey. I call it the Great Canadian Canning Journey. And the reason why I call it that is because I believe that I'm not the only one that is following in the same footsteps as myself. I believe there are so many other people, especially in Western Canada, who are learning the canning journey along with me as well. So I've been canning since I was 22 years old. I had learned traditional canning from my mom and my grandmothers, and later on it was an aunt. So what I had learned was basically you water bath canned everything. Absolutely everything was water bath canning. There was pressure canners and pressure canning out there, but my understanding of it from family and friends and learning is that there was no need to have a pressure canner, because if you water bath canned your low acid foods long enough, that would kill any botulism spores or any other kind of foodborne illnesses or whatnot that were in your food. So that's how I did it for quite a few years until 2020 come along and things changed massively. I mean, the global pandemic was here. COVID-19, when it first started, nobody knew what it was going to do. Everybody was scared. Everybody was frightened. Many of people in our area were especially frightened because we're kind of on the edge or the end of the food chain supply here, on the edge of the forestry. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get food items into our local store here. So, I mean, most of us were already planting gardens and canning, but for me, myself, I wanted to dive deeper into it just to see what I could find out and learn more. Because other than going straight to work, which I am a nurse, and I was a nurse at that time, we could not see family members, especially in the profession that I'm in. We did not want to take any chances in basically exposing them to COVID at all. So my husband and I, who he's also a healthcare worker as well, we went to work and we come home. So we didn't see family, and there was a lot of time to learn a lot about canning and pressure canning and foodborne illnesses. So I just want to take you back just a little bit, and I want to talk about some of the things that happened when I first started to can. I learned a little bit in the past about the fact that there was probably a few companies, maybe a half a dozen companies, back in the early 1900s that had started making canning supplies. And there's a few different names that I can think of offhand. There was Kerr, and then there was Bernardin. I don't know if Ball was in Canada or not. I'm not really sure. But Bernardin was definitely the one that come out on top. They are the main canning suppliers even till now. There is the few odd ones out there. There's a company that makes what you call Golden Harvest. But Bernard, basically, for the bulk of my canning experience, had ruled what we call the roost. They cornered the market. So with traditional canning, or with the canning that primarily in the Canadian provinces, we used jars called gem jars. And this is what a gem jar looks like. It's round, and it's got a 78 millimeter round top here, and the lid is 78 millimeters. So that sits in between a regular mouth canning jar and a wide mouth canning jar. And these kind of basically were only being used in Canada, and they were only being produced in Canada. So Bernardin had decided at one point back in, I think it was, they had discontinued making the jars. But they were continuing to make the lids because they knew that it was a big market for these, because these are what we primarily used. I mean, you get 2-quart ones. This is 1 quart. You had pint size. Everybody out here is using the gem jars. So Bernardin decided that they weren't going to continue to make it, but they continued to use the lids, or make the lids. But back in 2003, they decided they weren't going to make the lids and the bands for these jars anymore. And that sent the canning community across Canada into a great upheaval. I remember how upset I was because all of my canning jars were gem jars. How could I afford with a young family to replace all of these jars and lids and bands? Like, there was just no way that I could afford to do it at that time. On top of that, these jars have been handed down for generations. Like, I'm still canning in gem jars that I got from my grandmother and my mother. So, I mean, it wasn't just the fact that we couldn't get the lids, it was the principle of it. It was the fact that these were traditional canning jars and we could no longer get the lids for these jars or the bands. And what happened was everybody was upset. And for the most part, people just decided that they were going to offload their jars because they couldn't use them anymore. They couldn't get the product for it. Unload their jars at thrift stores and, recycling. And I thought to myself, this can't be. There are way, way too many jars out there for this. So I actually started picking up all these extra jars, and my former husband is like, what are you doing? Like, you can't get lids and bands for these anymore. I said, just wait, you'll see. Trust me, just wait. And basically, the Canadian canning community boycotted. They boycotted Bernardin. It was the little man against the big company. Now, my understanding is, I'm not exactly sure when Bernardin left Canada, but they were currently in the United States at that time. And there was a gentleman that lived in Canada that used to work and had a big role in the Bernardin Company in Canada. And he's seen this and he realized the need for these canning lids. So what he did was he went out and he created his own company and he started making the lids and the bands. Told you so. You don't mess with traditional canning. You just don't. So everybody that unfortunately had gotten rid of their gem jars realized that, they could have got the lids after that. And so I was excited because, I had all of these jars that people didn't want. I was picking them up for free. So what ended up happening is that this canning company that had started making the gem lids once Bernardin had discontinued them, it disappeared. And even though I can't verify this information, there was on the internet, which was a lot of brand new forums at that time, because the internet was fairly new. The rumor is that Bernardin had actually approached the president of this new canning company that was making these gem lids and bought them out. So once again, Bernardin cornered the market. So I was very thankful that Bernardin had decided to continue doing this, and they had actually given us a bit of a warning. They said, just so you know, at some point in time, we will be discontinuing the lids. Not right now, but discontinuing the lids. Fast forward from 2003 to 2023. Spring of 2023, Bernardin says, we are discontinuing the gem lids. Stock up now. And so I was like, okay, well, we knew this was coming. I'd already started buying some of the wide mouth and the regular mouth canning jars that you could actually get the lids and the bands for, no problem. There's lots of companies out there that make for that. So I went and I stocked up because I thought, what are the chances that somebody's going to come out with these gem jar lids again? I wasn't quite sure. So I went and I stocked up. I cleaned, I have to say I did it. I cleaned out my local community. I went to the next community and I cleaned out them because this canning to me is a big thing. So what happened is there was a company that seen the need for this. And this company is 4Jars. And I understand that it is not in Canada, or it might not even be in the United States. It's probably, I think, originated from China. But they have started making canning bands and lids for regular mouth, wide mouth, and amazingly, the gem jar lids. They knew that there was a market for lids for these jars. I mean, these jars are amazing. Like, they have lasted so well. They just don't make things the way they used to before. So I was very, very excited to be able to get lids and bands for this. And here comes Papa. All right, so continuing on, so my journey in canning back in 2020, like I said, brought me to a point where I researched and I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and there's a lot of not good YouTube videos out there, and there's some very amazing and informative YouTube channels that cover canning. So one of the YouTube channels that I had started watching was the Needy Homesteader. She's an amazing lady named Heather. And she had mentioned something to me called rebel canning. And I'm like, what is rebel canning? Like, what are you talking about? And so she explained to me, or explained to the community through her videos, that rebel canning is canning that is done that does not follow guidelines. Guidelines? What guidelines? I didn't know of any guidelines. I mean, I thought it was something that was passed down, you know, traditions and methods passed down from grandmother to mother to daughter to son. You know, I didn't know what rebel canning was. So I had to research this. And basically, rebel canning, yes, is the name used for canning that does not follow guidelines. So the guidelines that I was looking for, I thought, you know, my country, Canada, must have these guidelines. And so I went searching on the Government of Canada website. I found nothing. There's nothing there. We do not have anything as far as National Center for Food Preservation or, you know, guidelines for anything. So I kind of think that maybe the Canadian government maybe didn't want to touch on that, because we are so entrenched in our practices in many areas of the country here. So where do we find these guidelines? So the next place I would look is to the south of us. I looked to the United States. And in the U.S., they have what they call the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And they have a website, and they have a spot on their website that has to do with home canning. And basically, you can go on their website and you can find out safe canning methods. It's the complete guide to home canning. And I did get the book. This is the 2023 edition. It's the Agriculture Information Bulletin number 539. So I found information from there, and I also found information from what they call the National Center for Food Preservation. And boy, was I shocked. Our methods that we were using were not safe. They weren't. They just weren't. And one of the main reasons, and I'll take this for example, is botulism. Well, I had heard about the foodborne illness botulism and the possibility of it being in canning, but I didn't really know much about it. So as I said, it's a foodborne illness. It's called Clostridium botulinum. And so this is all I found for statistics in Canada. So from 2006 to 2021, that's 15 years, there were 55 lab confirmed cases involving 67 people. Okay, so that's 15 years, 55 lab confirmed cases involving 67 people. The incidence was 0.01 case per 100,000 population. We have 38,037,000 people currently in Canada. That's 0.1 per 100,000. So I wanted to know how much was actually commercial and how much was actually home preservation, well, or, you know, other things. So it was broken down into this. Out of those 55, there were 4 outbreaks from commercial products, including an international outbreak caused by carrot juice in 2006. And the carrots got the raw deal on the end of that, sorry. So out of those 67 cases, 78% were hospitalized. 70% of those were put on mechanical ventilation, unfortunately. And out of those 67 cases, there were 7 deaths. 7 deaths in 15 years. And I'm thinking to myself, you probably have a greater chance of getting cancer or crawling in your car and driving down the road and dying in an accident. And I was willing to take those risks for myself. But when my grandchildren come along, I wasn't willing so much to take those risks for them. So even though I do what we call rebel canning still, I really, really scrutinize what I'm doing with those recipes. If I feel it's too unsafe, I won't do it. For the most part, I do try and follow what the USDA recommends and the National Center for Food Preservation. I also do follow the recipe books that Ball and the subsidiary Bernardin in Canada here produce, as they are tested and considered safe recipes as well. So I learned a lot. I really, really did. It's like my eyes were opened. So when that happened, then I would go on Facebook, or I would go on these YouTube channels, and I would say, okay, so this person is doing rebel canning and this person isn't. But I was on some of these YouTube and Facebook pages, and some were very accepting of rebel canning, and then others were not. Like, for example, I had made a recipe and I had posted and showed it on there, and the lady that actually run that Facebook page, she called me out on it. And I'm like, well, I'm just learning. Like, I don't know. And people were like basically jumping down your throat because you're rebel canning. You shouldn't be doing that. That's not safe. Well, we've been doing it for years, but people don't know. The education just is not out there for this. And this is part of the reason, not only am I doing this YouTube channel for my family, because I want to teach them our canning methods and safe canning methods, but I want to be able to share the information that I've learned and pass it along to everyone else so that they can do their own research and make their own decisions about what kind of canning recipes they want to make or what they don't want to make. And that's really important to me, because I was made to feel like I was doing something terribly wrong. And I don't want anybody on this YouTube channel or in the comment sections to feel that way. And this is part of the reason why I've only put one canning video up, is because I wasn't exactly sure how to address this. So this is my disclaimer to you. You will see safe tested recipes. You will see some rebel canning. I will let you know to the best of my ability if it is rebel canning or not. And it's also, in the end, up to you to do your research and decide for your own family, because it is not my responsibility what you feed your family. It's your responsibility. So you have to make that decision. So I just wanted to get this out there before we go ahead and start. I will do my very best. I mean, we're all learning. We're all in this journey together, whether you want to call it the Great United States Canning Journey or the Great English Canning Journey, the Great Canadian Canning Journey. We're all in this journey together in learning how to produce our own foods safer and tastier. That's one thing. So like I said, I just wanted to get it out there and talk about it. I'm trying to think if I've missed anything. I don't think I have. I think that's quite a bit to process here. But I just wanted to let you know how I felt about it, and I would like to know how you feel about it as well, and I would also like to know your experiences as well. Papa's making stupid faces at me. I'm trying to wrap this video up and it's not going very well. So I do want to know about your experiences as well. So please don't be afraid to leave a comment in the comment section below. There is no judgment here. I will not judge you, because I have been there. So, all right. I want everybody to have a good evening. This ends May 4th, 2023, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.